Hello, everyone. I hope you had a great week. I just returned from a 5-day trip where I had no time to research a topic. So I decided to share something with you I think you'll enjoy. You will learn a little about me, and in doing so, I hope what happened to me might be both helpful and encouraging to many of you as well. From the time I was old enough to look into a mirror, I wondered who I was. I knew who my parents were, but for some reason, I didn't look like them. I also didn't look like my sister, but I did see some of my brother in me. Unfortunately, I didn't think he looked much like my parents either. Though I didn't dwell on this set of circumstances, from time to time, I did ask myself the question, who am I? In 1989, while sitting in church one Sunday, the Holy Spirit called me to read the entire Bible. I have no idea why that happened to me. Why me, Lord? But over the next year, I diligently read God's entire word and was amazed at what I found there I had never heard before, despite a lifetime in church. Later, I would read the Bible 4 more times. What a revelation that was for me. Finishing the Old Testament and beginning the New Testament, that little girl whom I met in the mirror so many years ago came back. Why? Because the first words of the New Testament, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 1, is the genealogy of Jesus. I would never forget that. God had been silent for 400 years prior to writing the New Testament. And as he spoke again, he gave us a long list of people who had come before Jesus and whom I believe were chosen as his lineage. Heritage, then, was obviously important to God, since he chose to open the New Testament with that information. Perhaps, who am I, should be important then to me too. To answer that question, go back with me to July of 1971. My dad had passed away 6 months earlier, and my mom came from Florida to visit. We always loved being with her. She had a $1 million personality and a great sense of humor. She made any time spent with her memorable. One day, she asked my sister and me to take her to all the cemeteries where her family members are buried. That seemed like a strange request, but we drove off, wondering what was in store for us. At each stop, Mom shared a part of her life story. It was so intriguing, and I had heard almost none of it before, so I was riveted to it. She wondered for a lifetime who she was, so I shouldn't be surprised to wonder who I was. Here's the story. Mom was born in 1908 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to a couple who undoubtedly were not married. That still is frowned upon by many today, but back then it was horrendous. And children from that situation, like Mom, would often be shunned. In August of 1908, Mom and her parents moved to New York City. That proved to be a disaster. Her birth father deserted the family in February of 1909. Her mother then became involved with yet another man, got pregnant, fell down a flight of stairs, and the baby she was carrying died. She died 2 weeks later. Mom was now a 1.5 years old and an orphan in New York. Her birth mother's family lived in Detroit and was notified of their sister's death. They then paid a nurse to bring Mom to them. They loved her dearly, and raised her as their own, never telling her anything different. Along the way, though, people would slip and say things that made Mom aware she might have been adopted, but no one admitted to that. Mom grew up, met my dad, and they were married in 1929. In 1931, a letter came from New York City inquiring about Mom. I would later tell her that letter actually had to be initiated by her birth father, who knew she was, by that time, 21 years old. Along with the letter came a picture of Mom as a baby, a picture of her birth mother at about age 18, and a picture of both of her birth parents, taken in the fall of 1908. Mom answered the letter, explaining that she had had a wonderful life. She was married and the mother of a baby boy. Dad wanted to hire a private detective to find Mom's birth father. Mom wanted that too, but she was afraid of who he really might be. This now brings us back to our day at the cemeteries. It became clear that Mom wanted my sister and me to search for her dad. We were eager to do just that, wondering what we'd find. Perhaps Mom had siblings, and we might have a whole new family. It became very exciting as the search began in earnest. We scoured the internet, wrote endless letters, traveled to New York City, and visited every place our grandparents lived or worked, including the agency where Mom was left before being sent to Detroit. We took pictures of all of it so we could build a story for Mom. But we actually found very little in the way of substance. We did find a death certificate for our grandmother, a coroner's inquest, and her grave. No one but my sister and me had visited her grave in nearly 100 years. But we stood there proudly and even had a gravestone made and placed there as a thanks for giving us such a wonderful mother. But we found nothing about her dad. Our search continued for the next 50 years without success. How do you find a man with a name like Will Davis? Could his name be any more common than that? One day, my sister, my brother's daughter, and I decided to take DNA tests. The results came in 2017. There, at long last, was our grandfather. His name appeared on a never-ending list of family members living in Indianapolis, Indiana, where he was born and had lived since leaving New York. Amazing. I then contacted the owner of the records. She is a great niece of our grandfather and was eager to help us and to meet us. So I traveled to Indiana. What a wonderful trip. I learned that our grandfather had never married and had died of a heart attack in 1966. But his niece, my mother's first cousin, was still living at age 104. I met her. What a visit we had. No one knew about us. But that cousin not only looked like my mom, but had her personality. I then saw pictures of the family as well as a few of my grandfather. It was all incredible. I finally knew who I really was. A few things came out of that visit. First, I love that family, and I feel very close to them. Second, my "Who am I?" was answered. I actually look like them. And our youngest son looks like my grandfather's youngest brother. Finally, two of our children have medical issues that originated in that family. One is very serious, and we're now aware and can do something about it. Finding this root was one of the best things I've ever done. I now know exactly who I am. If any of you wonder about your past, as I did, take a DNA test and search. I'm so thankful we did that. I hope you enjoyed this unique story. God places us in families. When that tie seems lost and broken, their genes remain and are with us always. God placed me in the lineage of my maternal grandparents for a reason. How about you? If God thought we should know the lineage of Jesus, I believe he wants us to know our own. Let me know if you find yours. Thank you for listening. I thought you might find this story interesting. Come back next Thursday when I begin a new Christian series on the end times and what really happens when we die. Until then, have a very blessed week, and please continue reading God's entire word.